In case you can't tell, here on my channel, I love Scotland. I'm one of those Americans that's just a little bit obsessed. And I'm so thankful that when I have been in Scotland, the Scots have completely welcomed me with open arms. It's one of the most hospitable countries I've ever been to. But I have heard murmurings through the grapevine that there are some things that really annoy the Scots. So in this video, we're going to be dishing on the habits that some American tourists tend to have that absolutely drive the Scots bonkers. And I am guilty of pretty much all of these, or most of them. And these are based on what I've heard through the grapevine, like I said, also observations I've seen from comments online from people in Scotland, as well as comments on this channel, including one habit in particular that really shocked me. So we're going to talk about that one and more. So let's dive into the list of 14 habits of American tourists that drive the Scots mad. Habit number 1, when we tend to mispronounce everything. All right, you guys know I am so guilty as charged, but I will say that I did take a painstakingly long time to make sure that I learned how to properly pronounce Edinburgh. I know that I still don't say it quite right in a Scottish accent. I can't do that beautiful R roll that they do, but I at least try not to end with the letter G. Edinburgh. Big mistake. That's like the top mistake that Americans make, is to pronounce it Edinburgh or Edinburgh. It's more like Edinburgh. I still can't do it right, I know. It's kind of more like borough, not berg, like we would pronounce it. And of course, mine kind of comes out bra, Edinburgh. But at least make an attempt to try to pronounce things correctly. I've learned a lot about pronunciations. I've learned it's cairn, not carn. I did just learn recently I was pronouncing Holyrood wrong. I was saying Holyrood, and it's Holyrood. You know, we think Hollywood, I guess. There are so many more out there, and I still butcher a lot of them, I know, but I'm trying. So if we can at least make an attempt to pronounce everything correctly, I think that goes a long way with the Scots. Number 2, okay, I am the guiltiest of all of this one. This is my number 1 dish. I can't help myself, and that is constantly making our Scottish ancestry plugs. So us Americans, maybe we have that great-grandfather that was like 3% Scottish in their DNA that showed up in like the ancestry results. And we're so excited to don our Scottish ancestry. We talk all about our clans. We research it in depth. This is all me. I am huge on genealogy research, and this is what led to my path of obsession with Scotland. I'll be honest with you. I'm from the McIntyre clan. My maiden name is McIntyre, so I did a lot of research on the McIntyres, and this just started my love affair with all things Scotland. But I know I take it too far. I think that the Scots are always pleased that we want to learn about Scotland and some of the culture and a little bit about the history of the clans, but us Americans, we get there and we immediately got to talk all about our clans and our family and our tartan, and I think it makes them chuckle a little bit. I've seen online actually that some don't even like it when we talk about our clans, because you're talking about a tiny little percentage of the population and you're ignoring a lot of the rest of the population, from my understanding of it. Also, a little disclaimer here. If you are from Scotland and you are watching this just to get a chuckle, I know that I'm making some blanket assumptions about you and trying to speak on your behalf. So if I am speaking in error, definitely speak up here. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you back some of this or not. I am kind of speaking from my observations. So then that kind of plays right along with the third habit. I think these go hand in hand, and that is when you arrive in Scotland, immediately asking someone what clan they're from. Again, this is just a little piece of so many things to think about in Scotland, and us Americans just get really obsessed. All right, habit number 4. When we come to Scotland and we lose our minds over the Highland cows. They're not really a thing here much, though we do have a local farm here that has Highland cows and we love to go see them. But We're obsessed. And of course, we get there, we go visit, we see one, and we want to go hug on them. We say, a fluffy cow. And then you have maybe a local farmer who's looking on at us like, yeah, it's a cow. So I think it's okay to love the cows, to appreciate the animals, the nature, the beautiful scenery, but maybe tone it down just a little bit when you see a cow. I never want to lose my excitement and wonder, but probably does still get a little annoying to locals. Number 5, when us Americans come to Scotland and we don't know how to use their roads, especially if you're renting a car and you're braving it to go up into the Highlands and you're not just sticking to the trains or buses and the public transport. We go rent a car and then we have no idea how to drive those roads. We don't understand the rules and we break them and we put others in danger and forget that it's not all tourists in Scotland. There are people here locally trying to live their lives, trying to get to work, trying to take care of their families. And here we are acting like maniacs on the roads. So in general, you'll notice something a little different in Scotland from the US. You have what's called a passing place. This is like a little place where you pull over. In America, if we see a spot like that on the road, we assume that it's to get out, take pictures, and see this beautiful, breathtaking scenery. So a lot of Americans will be driving along and they pull over and they park in those and they get out. But that is not what they're for. You're not supposed to stop and park. It's for you to pull over and allow the other car to come through. Because a lot of times you're on a very narrow single lane road and there are a lot of rules about who passes who. So getting used to these kind of rules, getting used to driving on the left side of the road and not making the wrong turn right, as well as just learning the overall road signage. So I definitely can see how this is very frustrating to Scots if the Americans come over and don't know how to drive. All right, what are we on, number 6? All right, when we call everything a castle, and I'm so guilty of this. As a fact, I think somebody commented, I was mixing up palace for castle. So give us some grace, guys. Us Americans, we are obsessed with castles because we don't have any here. We are a fairly new country. We just celebrated 250 years, which isn't a huge amount of time. So we don't have a lot of ruins and castles and so much history here. So this is a big part of the magic for us in visiting Scotland, is all these castles and ruins. So much history to look at. But we call everything a castle, I know. So I guess there's a difference between a ruin and a castle and a palace. I'm not sure what that is. Let me Google it real quick. Okay, so Google says that a castle is more of a fortified building, so it's made to withstand attacks. It's more for defense, whereas a palace is more of a luxurious home. So good to know. There is a difference. So Americans, stop calling everything a castle. And I think same thing goes for a lot of the churches. So you have abbeys, priories, if I say that right. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing again. And then cathedrals and chapels. So what's the difference between them all? I think it has to do with the hierarchy, probably within the Catholic religion. I think the cathedral is more for your bishops. Think big, almost a castle. Abbey is going to be led by an abbot. And then a priory is a little smaller, led by a prior. And then you have a chapel that's just like a little place for prayer. I think I got that right, but they're not all the same. So, and a cathedral or a church is not the same as a castle either. Also beautiful to visit though. All right, next habit, the kilt. The typical question, the infamous question, the one that they always get is, what's underneath? Yes, we all find this amusing. This is always a funny one, but I'm not sure it's that funny to the Scots when they've heard it for like the 900th time. So probably tone it down if you come to Scotland. You see a man in a kilt, probably don't ask him what he's wearing underneath. I've even got a shirt of this for my husband. He competes in the Scottish Games here in the US and he wears a kilt. So of course I had to get him this shirt. Always a favorite. All right, the next habit, yes, I'm so guilty of this too, and that is, especially for the women folk, you come to Scotland and you constantly ask everybody, where is Jamie Fraser? I'm sure the Scots are tired by now of hearing all about Jamie Fraser and everyone on the hunt. Outlander, of course, is what I'm referring to. If you don't know Outlander, you might have been living in a cave, but for those who are not familiar with it, Outlander is a TV series based on the books of Diana Gabaldon. Gabaldon, am I saying her name right too? I've read them all. I've watched every episode and Blood of My Blood as well, which is the prequel. And I think that Outlander is really what has caused Scotland tourism to just explode. Scotland's already an amazing, beautiful place to visit, but Outlander has really piqued the interest of tourists. So many want to go there to see their filming sites. And I do have an Outlander video out there that I've done as well. And I'm going to be working on another one for you too that's going to be kind of the ultimate guide of all the Outlander filming locations. So here I am helping contribute to this annoyance of us Outlander obsessed folks, but especially the number one question I think that the Scots get when we arrive is, where is Jamie Fraser? He's kind of like the heartthrob of the show, the main character that all the women love. All right. The next habit, and again, so guilty of this, and that is taking a picture of everything. And by everything, I mean absolutely everything. A rock, a stone, a man walking down the street. Look, a Scot! The garbage. This is what rubble looks like in Scotland. Everything that is just even remotely Scotland. Now, I don't think it's so much taking pictures. They probably really appreciate that we love the beauty of the country. I think it's more when we get in people's way because we're walking along and we just stop and we hold up traffic or we hold up everybody walking behind us to stop and take our pictures like every 2 steps. Again, people live here. There are locals that are trying to go about their day, go to their jobs, do things for their family, and us tourists are just all out with our camera, stopping and taking it all in on holiday, as they call it. We call it vacation. I'm guilty of this in every country, I have to admit. All right, the next habit, this one kind of relates to pronunciations and all, but this time it's flipped, and that is when we talk about their accents. I think that Scots tend to get heckled a lot for their language and the way that they talk. If we go there and we kind of make fun of their accents, or not even make fun of them, but just try to get them to talk and say, hey, can you repeat that? Say that again. Say that again. Oh, I love your accent. I think this gets annoying after so many times. All right, then we have a couple of things that are a little more serious. This really is something I understand getting annoyed about, and I think something that does need to be talked about. And if there is any advice you take to heart from this episode, if you're an American tourist visiting, that is be respectful of the land. I think that the number one thing we want to do to respect the culture, respect the country, is leave everything as you found it. The Scots are very big on this. I have noticed, I think, and I could be wrong, but I've kind of noticed there is careful attention to like environmental stewardship in Scotland, certainly more so than America. And rightly so, because this land is one of the most beautiful areas in the world, and the reason why so many of us are obsessed and want to come to Scotland to see all of this beauty. And it needs to be protected. If us humans are out ruining it and trashing it, it's going to be no more. And I think there is kind of a balance here too. There's a struggle with the influx of tourism in Scotland, especially when tourists have been visiting areas like the Isle of Skye. Those are very popular places. Certain tourist spots like the Fraser Stone at the Culloden battlefield. Everybody wants to see the Fraser Stone again, Jamie Fraser from Outlander. It had seen so much foot traffic that they had to actually close the site down for a little while because it was ruining the land right around there. You know, the land is kind of at risk. The more we can do as visitors, do our part at cleaning up behind ourselves. Don't litter. Don't take advantage of some of the laws that they have there that we don't have, like the right to roam. I think you can camp anywhere over there. But sometimes people come in huge RVs and just really take advantage of that. So just always being respectful and mindful of the land. Do your part to not leave a massive footprint. And then another thing that I think is of serious note too is when you're visiting places that are very sacred or, a memorial battlefields like the Culloden battlefield. Don't treat it like it's Disney World. This is a solemn place, many who are buried below the grounds, and I have been guilty of this. I am a content creator. I come through with my camera and I'm so excited to see these historical places and giggling and laughing and loud and not really having a sense of reverence. So just keep that in mind when you're exploring places like that that are more of a memorial type of a place. Be reverent and kind of have a sense of honoring those who have fallen there. All right, now we're almost there. We're on habit number 13. This is the one that really shocked me. I really did not expect this to be controversial, but this is all based on especially the comments I got on my recent video talking about things I'm definitely packing this time for my next trip. And then I've also seen it in a couple of other places involving travel to Scotland and just generally in Europe. That is bringing a mini portable fan. I gotta admit, some Scots came for me in the comments. Maybe it wasn't Scots, maybe it was just people in general. Um, I think the idea with this is, and I could be wrong, and I have seen this idea in a lot of travel groups, is when you're visiting a location, being mindful of the culture there. You know, you come to appreciate a different culture, a different way of life, and respecting that culture that you're in for the time that you're over there. Sometimes, even if you need to dress appropriately, if you go into a church, don't be showing off your booty, wear little longer skirts lower than your knees, or things like that. Just being mindful and respectful of where you're at. So I think the idea was, us Americans, we love our air conditioning and it is something we rely heavily on, but it's not really prevalent so much in a lot of places in Europe and certainly not the UK. It gets very cold in Scotland, so it's not really needed quite as much most of the year. They do have heat waves at times, like they're having right now at the time of my filming, I think, but for the most part, the homes were all made to keep heat in because the cold is what's the problem there, not the heat. Now, I'm from Florida and it's the complete opposite. We pretty much can't survive without our air conditioning here. The thought of that is terrifying. We're not scared of our hurricanes. We're not scared of our alligators. We're scared of losing our power during a hurricane and having no air conditioning. So I had mentioned bringing a little mini portable fan, not because it's hot outside by any means. It's cold outside. And they do open windows. However, there were a couple of Airbnbs that I stayed at and hotels where I could not get the windows open or where they didn't allow the circulation in very well. And so I was burning up hot and almost sick. I had like migraine. I felt terrible from the lack of airflow. It's something I just was not used to as an American. I'm used to a lot of airflow. And so I came up with the simple solution of packing a fan with me that I personally don't feel is hurting anybody. Nobody even has to know about it. It'll be in my private room as I'm going to sleep, just so that I am comfortable and not sick for going to sleep. And some feel that this is perhaps disrespectful. I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments. We can talk about this a little bit more, respectfully, of course. I personally am still bringing my fan. In my opinion, I feel like if I'm spending thousands on a dream trip somewhere, I don't want to be miserable. I want to experience it and enjoy it to the fullest. And I know that I will not enjoy it if I'm sick, have a migraine, I can't sleep and I'm exhausted, all those things. I might as well not even go. So that's my 2 cents on it and where I kind of disagree. All right. And then that leads me to the last number 14 habit, and that is don't let anyone know if you're a Campbell, particularly in the McDonald lands. And this is actually kind of just a funny tongue-in-cheek tradition. I don't think this is really a true feud anymore. I don't think there's anything against Campbells anymore. And there are probably plenty of Campbells out there watching at the moment in Scotland, from Scotland, who say, hey, this doesn't apply to all the Scots. But it is still kind of a banter, I think, till this day. It goes back to especially like the massacre of Glencoe. It's just kind of known throughout Scottish history that the Campbells could not be trusted. And there is a slogan that goes all around Scotland that says, never trust a Campbell. And having come from the McIntyre clan, I know once again I am committing habit number two by bringing up my ancestry again as an American. But having done that extensive research on the McIntyres, our clan rented on the lands of the Campbells. So they were our landlord, and we got kicked off of their lands eventually too. So I have that mistrust as well, going all the way back to like 1700. What can I say? It's the spirit of my ancestors. Now, the McIntyres did even intermarry with the Campbells, but I think a lot of times it was extortion. It was like forced on us. So, again, never trust a Campbell. All right, so that wraps up the list of 14 habits of American tourists that annoy the Scots. So if you're a Scot, let me know if you agree or disagree. And again, some of these were definitely in fun, here to publicly humiliate myself, but also maybe perhaps save a few other American tourists from themselves and make you mindful of a few things if you are planning a trip to Scotland yourself. And make sure that if you enjoy all things Scotland and travel, that you stick around here. I've got tons more Scotland content coming. We've got our trip coming up in September. So lots of videos out there in preparation of it. And of course, I'll be bringing you guys along. And I've got a whole Scotland playlist out there so you can catch up on the replay if you've missed any of it. So happy travels and learning about Scottish culture. And I will catch you guys all in the next one. Bye.